What's up, everybody? So today I want to do a collection of all my horror VHS tapes, and if you see from the background, they're gone. That's because they're right next to me. But I wanted to really say real quick about how I feel about VHS, in which I did grow up with VHS tapes whenever I was a kid. I grew up with Disney and all those things, VeggieTales. Like, I grew up with all the stuff that I watched as a kid, but I never had the chance to really watch horror as like on VHS as a kid. So because of the really great artwork and because of just people so nostalgic for horror, and honestly some horror movies I feel like with the quality of a VHS tape where it's grainy works to its effect for horror sometimes, and I do wish that I could have grown up with horror on VHS. I, of course, watched horror on TV and then on DVD and then so forth, but I never went to VHS, which I was too young for that, or I grew up at a time where VHS, like, I was born in the 90s, and VHS was a big thing until, like, 2000s, 2005, I think was the last year they released VHS tapes, but I watched VHS tapes my whole childhood. I just never watched any horror, so I wanted to show off my collection. And there's one tape that I'm going to show first that I have not seen yet, called Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace, which I really want to see, and I've been putting it off and putting it off. But that's the only horror movie that I've got that I've not watched before, and I really do want to see this. I think it looks really fun, and I haven't seen any Mario Bava movies, so I do want to watch this. Yeah, and this one I got for 50 cents at like a local like entertainment store in town, so that's pretty cool. So Blood and Black Lace is the first one I own. And then let's kick off the franchises, which I've only had a couple of each of these films in each franchise. But the Halloween franchise, I've got Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. And I just bought Halloween 2 today on VHS. And the first Halloween is the artwork that is like on all of the big releases of Halloween of the original, with that picture. I know there's another one that's a blockbuster release one from the 80s, and I want to get that if I could find it, but it's really rare, of course, like most of these VHS tapes, so I'm glad I've at least got this version, even though it's one that's the artwork for every other version of the film, usually released. And then Halloween 2, this is an artwork from Good Times, which is a company that distributed this movie, that worked through Universal to distribute this. So I don't know if Universal in the 80s didn't yet have their own name, even though there are some 80s VHS tapes I have, like The Land Before Time said MCA Universal, and that came out in the 80s. So I don't know when they actually got the right to have the MCA Universal name, but this is distributed by Good Times, which the artwork for this is kind of bad. Just the way it looks pretty bad. It looks pretty, like, bare bones, because it's not a legit, quote-unquote, like, artwork from the movie. It's just they kind of crop those two actors together with the pumpkin with glowing eyes, which is not what's in the actual picture of the movie, or actual poster of the movie. There's no glowing eyes. So, yeah, this artwork is silly, but it's cool that I found this, though. It's just kind of a weird one, because it's not technically fully Universal. It's just they distributed it by another company. And then I've only got one Friday the 13th tape so far that I found, which is Jason Lives. Awesome. Really awesome tape, or really awesome movie, of course. And then Nightmare on Elm Street, I've got two of them. I've got 2 and 3, and that's both I've got only for Nightmare on Elm Street so far. And I really want to get the rest of these, because on the side, it's going to build up to a show of Freddy on each of these for the first 7 films. That's really cool, and I want to get them all just to at least have that image of a whole Freddy. And I've seen the image online of all these tapes put together. And then I have Scream, just bare bones VHS. Like, it's just what Dimension did for this one. There's not much to it. Then Urban Legend, and then Hellraiser, which this is a DVD or a tape from. Oh, it's Anchor Bay. At least it's more of a legit company, I guess, that did this one. But this is really cool artwork, actually. This one I like a lot, and that picture in the back is really awesome. It's really creepy looking. But I do love Hellraiser, and I think that's a cool artwork. And then I've got the original Universal Monster 1943 Phantom of the Opera. The only Universal Monster movie VHS tape I own, even though I own almost all of them on DVD, except for The Invisible Man. But that's the only Universal Monster, classic Universal Monster. And then I've got The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, which are not fully horror, but they're based off of the Universal Monster movies, but they're just a really fun, silly time. And I really do enjoy these both, even though they're cheesy, obviously. Like, I wasn't expecting them not to be, but they're really fun. And then this, I don't know if you count really as full horror too, but End of Days, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Found this at a Goodwill. Hadn't seen this before, and I read it this year, and I thought it was okay, but the artwork is really awesome on this one. And then Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Again, not fully horror, but I like to keep it in there because the first Terminator is a horror film in my eyes, I think. So, just that's really cool. And then Predator, awesome. And this is the Fox Selection one, so it's not like the first release of this VHS tape, but what can you do? It's pretty cool looking though. And then this is awesome. I got The Exorcist, and I think this is like one of the first releases because it's got the old Warner Brothers logo, like it's not the new one, as opposed to Exorcist 2, because that one has the newer logo as opposed to the older one on the bottom. So I think that's really cool. It's one of those that pops open like that. So I like that one a lot. That's a really cool tape. And Exorcist 2, this is not the original copy, which I want the original copy because it's got all the credits underneath. And I love how old VHSs do that, where like they have the poster and the film credits underneath as opposed to being on the back side. I like that on the front with the poster. I think that's really cool. And then I have The Haunting, 1999. Shitty Haunting. This movie's really bad. It's kind of entertaining in some ways, but it's pretty bad. Like, it's very insulting to the original. I'll review this sometime with the original, because the original is incredible, but this one is really just incredibly stupid. But I love the artwork for it. That's a really cool picture. Like, it really is really incredible for a picture of artwork that they did for it. And then we got It, two-taped It, because it's like 3 hours long. Basic artwork, and I think it's like the first release version too, because again, it's got the older Warner Brothers logo to it. And then Sleepy Hollow, which I just got this a while back at Goodwill, and I really want to watch this again, because this I remember being a really great fun slasher, actually. It's like a really brutal movie, and it's really over the top and really fun, and I really need to see this again, because I haven't watched it for a long time. And then 2 of the Hannibal films, Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal. Love Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal is Hannibal. Like, I can't really say much about that one. It's just really weird. It's a very strange decision of a movie they made. And I know it's based on a book, and I haven't read the book, so I don't know if the book's like this too, but I thought the movie was just very weird in a way where it wasn't that good. And then The Blair Witch Project. This I haven't watched yet on VHS. I've seen it, of course, on DVD, but I've never watched it on VHS, and I think that might actually help it because of the low-grain quality. I think that might just look really cool watching it on a VHS tape. And then these 2 are not completely horror, but they're thrillers, and I do enjoy both of these a lot. Sleeping with the Enemy, Julia Roberts, really awesome movie. Not the original copy, of course. This is a premiere series, so it didn't come out like they did another reissue of this with that on it, so it's not the original copy, but that's fine. Really great thriller. I really enjoy Sleeping with the Enemy. And then last but not least is Basic Instinct, Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. This is really good. It is really, really fun, and I do want to review this one too, because it's one that I've seen before, and I love Michael Douglas as an actor. I think he's one of my favorite actors, and I want to review that. So yeah, Basic Instinct. And that's all my VHSs that I own. It's not a very big amount. I've got like maybe 20, 25, but I did want to show them off because I've shown off my horror Blu-rays and DVDs, but I haven't shown off the VHSs, even though you could see them in the background in all my videos, but still, I think that it was cool just to show them off. So, do any of you guys buy VHS tapes? Does anybody still do that? Like, I just do it because I think like image-wise, it's just cool having these. I think they're really cool. And because I go to Goodwill a lot, they're 25 cents each, and that's not a place to really find many horror movies, but I mean, I found this one at Goodwill like recently, so I mean, VHS tapes for me are just more like I'll watch them on VHS. I don't care quality aside, even though I'd rather prefer watching them in HD, but I can still watch them on VHS, and I don't mind that they're lower quality. So yeah, does anybody else buy these? Does anybody have any? Does anybody collect them? I know there's people who do, but and they're kind of hard to find with horror VHSs, especially because those are the ones out of any genre of film I feel like that are the most like rare and the most like people will pay money for them, as opposed to like any run-of-the-mill movie that is out on VHS that's not horror. I feel like because I go on eBay and look up all these horror VHS tapes, and they're really expensive. And because there's some that are either rare or they're just people will pay money for these because it is a genre that people love, and it's not like other film genres where the other films like released on VHS aren't really as much of a collective purpose as like horror. I think horror is more of a collective or a reason to collect VHS as opposed to any other genre. So, and there's a lot of rare horror movies that are only on VHS, so that's probably why too. So anyways, that's my VHS collection, and thank you guys so much for watching. Tell me down below if you own any, if you like to buy them, and thank you guys so much for watching.